key elements was Steve Young was asked by Matt Mayoko about how he feels like the 49ers team is going to do after they pay, if they are to pay Brock Purdy. And Steve Young gave Brock Purdy a ton of praise and gave the 49ers front office a lot of praise, and kind of compared their team and structure to other teams around the NFL. He used the Eagles as an example, talked about how they have paid multiple wide receivers, defensive end, top dollar. So apparently Steve Young thinks that the 49ers are not going to get worse once they pay Brock Purdy, and that they'll be able to continue to also build around him. Just, before we got into the schedule, I thought I would bring up that because it's always interesting when we can hear from one of the 49er greats. Not super surprising. I think Steve Young has mostly had positive things to say about every quarterback, that he's seen, but he definitely did have high praise. Are you shocked by that, or do you think that that's kind of just typical speech?
No, I think it's typical speech in terms of Steve Young usually praises the Niners. He also I thought what was more interesting was when he talked about last year was the 49ers opportunity and they missed their opportunity to win the Super Bowl in a down NFC West, a down NFL year where the Chiefs were a worse team than they were in the past. And he talked about how that was their opportunity and they missed it. And I thought, to me, that was more intriguing than anything because
That's
it's
interesting that he alluded to that. I mean,
and
like,
he
I
did that.
agree
He
with
said that
him,
on
but
KMBR. He didn't say it there, but he said it on
okay.
KMBR. And for me, I thought that was a little more interesting. Where it's like, whoa, like, what do you mean? Like, and I had said this last year before the season started, looking at all the teams. Like, this is the Niners' year. If they're gonna win it, this is the year. And what I meant by that, you saw KC didn't have the roster. You saw the NFC West wasn't going to be good this year or last year. So, like, looking at everything, that was their golden opportunity to win a Super Bowl with a great Super Bowl window. But he also mentioned the Super Bowl window isn't closed. He mentioned he even said it today. He was on KMBR 95.7 The Game again today, and he said faithful shouldn't panic. It's just the guys you love. If you want them all to win a Super Bowl, it's either this year, either last year or this year. It just has to happen. So he's even talking about don't panic because the guys are still on the team. It's either going to happen this year or it's never happening. By him saying stuff like this, it's
Damn, yeah.
like he's putting pressure on the organization as well as, you know what, hey, you have the roster. What are you? There's no argument in terms of we played Mahomes. You have the roster. You should win a damn Super Bowl. And I think he's absolutely right when it comes to talking about the Super Bowl
He's
window
just like
closing.
us. Yeah.
Yeah, he talked about the Super Bowl window closing after this year, and I think that, to me, it's a missed opportunity from last year to this year. They should have already had a ring last year. That was their opportunity. You're playing a weak Mahomes offense,
Yeah.
or at least
I
no
anticipate that
receivers.
offense is gonna get much better this year, which sucks. Really disappointing that they didn't take advantage, especially when it did feel like they were actually the better team and could have won if it wasn't for errors made by some of their star players that usually, you know what I mean? The best players didn't play their best. The coach didn't play the best. Brock Purdy played, in my opinion, good, but not extraordinary. Not even the Super Bowl was not his best game. And I think, you would hope that your team plays their best game in the most important, you know what I mean? If you're taking a math class and you do your homework and you do really good all year, but then the final exam comes and you get a C, it's like, okay, well, it doesn't matter that you got A's all year. Your grade's going to go down because in the most important moment you did badly. And that's, you know, um, and I think a lot of people are saying maybe Steve Young, just like us, might be a little bit of a, although he has, obviously is a Hall of Fame quarterback for the organization. I think maybe his fan is coming out when you hear some frustration build up. Niner Gang is in the house, and he says if the Niners or Chiefs make it back to the Super Bowl, that'll be amazing for either team. I mean, at this point, we can't put anything past the Chiefs. They've done that, gone back to back. But I agree, it would be incredible. The better team thing kills me that we didn't win. JM 617 says, Was it 8 fumbles recovered by KC, not including the one punt fumble that they recovered? Lady Luck wasn't on our side that day. Maybe just like good luck wasn't on our side that day. Is that what he means?
Yeah.
Um,
There's another quote too that Steve Young said today about Brock Purdy because you talked about the extension and everything, how
yeah.
Brock rightfully deserves an extension. So today on 95.7 The Game, I'm gonna read the exact quote that Steve
Does
Young
he
had
just
on.
change what he says depending on where he's talking?
Yeah, he Steve Young goes back and forth like Steve Young's the ultimate.
Because
Let me do an
you
interview
just told me
whenever.
that he was like, "Oh, the window's over," and then he's like at that event, and he's like, "It doesn't matter if they pay him; they're gonna still win the Super Bowl
Yeah,
in
just
4 years."
for him it was he didn't necessarily say the Super Bowl window was over yesterday on KMBR. He
This
pretty
gets
much
much
said that
political.
they missed an opportunity last year, and then he said this year is the last year they have all of their guys. So he's kind of like hinting like, hey, if you don't win it this year, your window is kind of closing. But the only reason why it's going to stay open is because of Brock. But today
Yeah.
on 95.7 The Game, he said Brock's processing power is a superpower. There are a few guys that I've seen through the years that can process like he does. 99% of humans, when adrenaline comes, your heart rate goes up, your mind shrinks, and you become fight or flight. There are others, when the moment gets big, heartbeat goes down. Those are the guys who play great football and quarterback. Brock has that. So he's talking about Brock having a superpower
I
with
feel
his IQ, but
But in the games that he's lost, it's like the opposite, right? Because like that, I agree with what he's saying. I think what's made Brock Purdy so special is even if you go back when they face the Dolphins, it's going to be that first time that he was thrown into a game. I think right away fans kind of saw that calmness in him. But if you go to the Ravens game, to the Browns game, maybe even the Bengals game, there were Vikings. There were a couple games, the games that they lost, which they didn't lose a lot of games, and the games that they won, they usually score won by multiple touchdowns and stuff. Like, I'm not trying to take away from the fact that they did incredible, but I think the problem with Brock is it almost doesn't seem like there's like a kind of happy medium. He's either like excelling or you're like, that's not Brock. What's happening? You know what I mean? Because when he's been flustered, it's been like a complete meltdown.
yeah, and
Do you
that's
feel
one of
like
those.
that's fair?